Manager Steve Yzerman shortly. Just give us a moment to grant recording access. And just for the awareness of the group, we do have a hard cutoff at 12 o'clock today. We'll try and get to as many questions as possible. Please let us know in the chat if you'd like to ask a question. And we'll start with Helene St. James.
Are you signing someone at noon today, Steve? Is that the hard cutoff?
Maybe not a plan for it, but there's still time.
Okay. And what stands out to you about this group going into camp?
Well, we had some spots on the roster to fill, and we were able to do that through free agency. So it's a bit of a new group, particularly on the blue line. Hang on one sec, guys. We got some background noise here. Sorry about that. So I guess that some new faces, some younger players that are closer to or maybe pushing potentially for a spot on the roster. So I guess what stands out is it's going to be interesting to me to see how the new faces come together.
And is this the deepest team you've had since you took over, do you think?
Probably in terms, I guess, of NHL experience, particularly on the blue line with the 7 relatively, I include Mo in that, I guess, experienced D-men. The additions up front of guys that have played for a number of years in the league, I think, makes us a little deeper. Through and through on the roster. We're not we should kind of have an idea of what to expect from the guys based on their careers. And so, yeah, I think there's a little more depth to the roster.
And lastly, just with signing quite a few veterans or adding them, I mean, are you seeing that that's more what is needed to become competitive in the immediate than, waiting for your younger players to develop and come in and be ready to really make an impact?
Well, I think first and foremost, signing we generally you need a roster somewhere of 22 to 23 players. You dress 20 players every night. And my feeling is I would rather, go to the free agent market and instead of hoping or forcing any of our young guys in. So really, filling our roster, completing our roster, not only this year, but over the last couple of years with some of the free agents is to be patient and allow these younger players to develop and play at a reasonable pace I guess a reasonable pace instead of just throwing them into the NHL and hoping they're okay and hoping we're going to win games that way. When we're 100% certain that they're ready to play or that they should be in the NHL and help us win games, they'll be in the NHL. But until then, one, they have to earn it, and two, they have to be ready and in our judgment, be ready to play.
Beyond the 0-3 record, any disappointment with the prospects tournament or?
I don't want. I guess you get a chance to watch not only your own players, but the other 3 teams there as well. You kind of see not everybody has their entire group of prospects there. As you know, the college kids aren't there, and the majority of European kids aren't there. So you throw these teams together. Literally, our group had one practice the day before. The games are kind of scrambly. You got guys 25, some guys 18 years old, and so I don't read a lot into it. At least the results. You kind of watch the individuals at that level. Are they fast enough? Are they strong enough? Are they thinking it okay? So I'm not going to put a ton or thought into that. We're watching mostly, kind of some of our invited players and the other team's invited players to see, hey, is that potentially a guy maybe we offer a contract to, or maybe that we're going to watch them closely for next year's draft if they're going back to junior. But for our own kids, we kind of have an idea, plan for them, particularly the younger, the first year ones. Just get an idea of how they do out there. They're going to go back to junior next week, and we'll let the players, the professionals under contract that are going to play either Detroit, GR, or Toledo, kind of work their way through training camp and preseason. So, it's just a chance to get a feel for how the kids are, mostly the younger guys. How's their skating look? How's their strength look? Are they thinking it at that level?
Thanks.
Ted Golfin?
Steve, I don't want to, well, how important would it be to make the playoffs this year? I mean, I don't want to say playoffs or bust, but is making the playoffs fairly important for you this season?
Well, I think every team would love to make the playoffs, Ted. Like, again, we'd be thrilled to make the playoffs. Is it playoffs or bust? When you say playoffs or bust, I guess you're prepared to trade all your draft picks and whatever you have to do at some point. So no, it's not playoffs or bust, but we're gonna try to win every game, and we're gonna try to make the playoffs. But to me, it's not at the expense of the future. Going to continue to repeat. Like, I'm trying to build a nucleus of a team that can make the playoffs on an annual basis. Like, you squeak in one year and you don't have the foundation to sustain it. That we're going to be sitting here a year from now or 2 years from now, and you're going, going to be, wondering again. So I would love to make the playoffs. The whole city would. Every one of our players, everybody in our organization would love to, and we'll give it a shot. We did what we could in the off season to improve our team, without mortgaging really any part of the future. So we'll continue to try and get better, and hopefully sooner than later we're a playoff team.
Steve, do you still feel like you're in that rebuild phase a little bit, or are you guys coming out
Yeah.
of it?
I don't know when to, I guess, like, literally announce that what stage of the rebuild we're at. Each year, we've tried to add draft picks. We've tried to sign any of our unrestricted free agents that we could or chose or wanted to, and the players that we couldn't or weren't gonna, as we traded at the deadline. And I guess you're out of your rebuild when you're not doing that at the deadline. And so we'll see. But again, I think we're still being patient. We're waiting for our younger players to develop. I intend to hold on to our draft picks for the foreseeable future and be patient and let them develop. And again, try to add to that small core that we have, and makes us a competitive team for a long stretch of time.
The last one, do you expect everybody to be healthy for the start of camp, or how does that look?
Yeah, Simon is close to being cleared for like full contact, if not. Michael Rasmussen, as you probably noted the other day, was taken off IRs from last year, so he's good to go. Carter Mazer had a leg injury, a lower body injury up in Traverse City, and he won't start. I don't have an exact length of time, but he would be the one player that I don't expect ready, that you'll see on the ice on Thursday.
Sounds good. Thanks for this, Steve.
Yep.
Max?
Hey, Steve, I'm curious, when you were talking about kind of coming out of the rebuild and, making sure you have the foundation, not just trying to squeak in. Do you think it's possible to come out of a rebuild too soon? I think that's a fear that a lot of people in hockey have sometimes. I'm just curious if you think that's a real thing.
A good question. Come out of it too soon. I think you have to, have an honest assessment or an accurate assessment of where you're at, what your team, and I think there can be a danger to jump ahead. And what does that mean? All of a sudden you're, trading your top prospects and trading your draft. At least that's my opinion. Trading your draft picks and your prospects before you have that group. Now, if you're getting, you're acquiring players that are going to be with you for a extended stretch of time or extended period of time, I think that's good. But yeah, we all like, we talk about the playoffs. Last spring, we talked about when are we going to make it. We did this summer, and we are today. And there's like, we all want to get there, and that desire to make that move or do something that kind of puts you over the top at as far as being a playoff team. I think there's some judgment in when that time is. So yeah, I think Max, I think there is something to that, is kind of being patient, being honest and accurate in your assessment of your organization, and then do what's necessary at the appropriate time.
No, I don't think we've talked to you since the Petrie trade. What did you like about the opportunity to add Jeff?
Well, I've always really liked Jeff Petrie as a player. He plays in all situations. He skates well. And then as the summer went on, and Pittsburgh, we really wanted to get another right shot defenseman. I thought that was important. And as the summer went on, when Pittsburgh made the deal with Montreal, I retained salary, and Montreal was willing to retain salary. And so we could get, really, one, we really liked the player. And then two, at the cap number and giving up a 4th round draft pick, we thought the contract made really good sense for us. The player makes good sense for us. And giving up a future 4th round pick, I thought was a reasonable price to pay to acquire him. So I like the fact now, if we look at our D, with, we have the 4, at least on one-way contracts, 4 left shot D, and 3 right shots. It's pretty balanced, and I think we got guys that can kill penalties. We've got some depth of players that can play on the power play, and I like to think, and I hope I'm right, in that we're an improved defensive team with not only the additions of Jeff, but Justin as well, who will fit him on the right side, and Shane as well as a lefty, who can, all those lefties really can move to the right side and play a little bit if need be.
And then last thing for me, what are your expectations and I guess what are your hopes for Joe Veleno this season?
Well, again, I hope he takes a step. I hope he forces the coaches to give him a more increased role. That and he can contribute, or it just takes on a bigger role, and that would be offensively and defensively. And I think they have 19 or 20 points last year, somewhere in there. I'd like to improve upon that total, but saying that, I don't want him focused on going out and scoring. He's predominantly a centerman. He can play the wing. I'd like to see him potentially take on a bigger role on the penalty kill. He'll have to earn that. Maybe find a spot on the power play somewhere. Just play more minutes, play a bigger role for us. And Joe's a young guy. He works really hard. He's very quiet, as you know, very respectful young man. And I think he has a chance. I'm counting on him to take another step this year and just be a more impactful player.
Thank you.
Ansar?
Yeah, Steve, do you expect this to be one of the more competitive camps since you've been here? Because it seems like if everybody's healthy, you're going to have maybe one guy up front, one guy in defense, veteran who's not going to be able to crack the lineup.
Yeah, I do expect it to be competitive. I would say, if you just look at the players all on one-way contracts, there's competition at every position, not only to be on the roster or in the lineup, but to play minutes in all situations. So I think that is healthy. The new players are going to want to come in and make a good impression on the coaching staff and earn a more increased role. And then we do have some of our younger players that are coming in here with the mindset, I'm going to make this team. We mentioned Joe Veleno, Michael Rasmussen, guys that they want a bigger role. They want more ice time. They want to play in some of these special teams. They want to take faceoffs in the last minute of a game. So there's competition there. We got a couple of young kids that have their heart set and their mindset on potentially making this team. So yeah, I do think there is really competition at all levels, not only to be on the roster, but for ice time and spots and special teams and whatnot.
And just what are your just your expectations of Husso? He seemed to struggle a bit down the stretch there. I don't know if he was overworked or hurt or whatever, but just how important also is it to for a guy like Reamer to kind of take a little bit of the load off of him?
Yeah, well, again, I'm not going to read a whole lot into, probably after the trade deadline. And so, yeah, he was actually dealing with an injury that we contemplated at one point. We're going in different directions and how we treated and kind of ending his season early, and ultimately decided to want to keep playing through and see how we did. So I think it was a bit of a combination of three things. One, we had a lot of injuries. Our roster was thin after the deadline with trades and injuries. And we were throwing him out there a lot, and he was a little banged up. So it was a grind. There were times when Billy was outstanding, and down the stretch, his numbers weren't good. But I'm hopeful that he'll gain more consistency, and we'll get a better. We'll see him see the way he played for the majority of the season. It definitely does help having some depth at the position, and we're counting on Reimer and potentially Lyon to give us solid or more consistent goaltending.
Thanks, Steve.
Millsy?
Steve, prior to last season, you stated that you wanted the team to take strides forward in team defense. Now looking ahead to this season, is there a specific area where you hope they can hone in and take another step forward in, or more of all the above?
Yeah, again, we're not good enough in any area. Statistically, I think we made some strides in all the different categories, and it's continued to go in that direction. For our goaltenders, our goals against and save percentage need to improve. Our special teams, we need to continue to creep forward. So as a team in every area, we need to get better offensively. Can we get more production, with some of our younger guys, like I mentioned, Joe or Michael Rasmussen being healthy, chipping in a few more goals, Robbie Fabry chipping in, staying healthy and chipping in, Alex DeBrincat contributing some more to the offense. So literally for us we got a ways to go in every area. It's no secret. You just look at the numbers, and I think collectively, if we continue to improve, we'll continue to creep up the standings.
Thank you.
Will?
Hey, Steve, when you mentioned that small core of players that you've assembled so far, how many players in Detroit have proven to you that they're part of that core? And what do you need to see from a player to know that, yeah, he's worth building around in the NHL?
Tough question to answer specifically, because players are different. One, I guess my general thoughts are they're going to have to be really competitive in order to win in the NHL, and in the playoffs, you have to be competitive. We want good people here, good high character people, and then ultimately you assess them individually. What kind of a player are they? You don't have to be a 50 goal scorer to be a really good player, and that goes for a forward or a D-man for that matter. Honestly, I'm kind of struggling to answer your question, but we want good players and guys that we think are going to, contribute in some form to all the things that make you a good team, whether you're a good, solid defensive forward, whether you're a big, strong, physical fourth line guy or whatnot that is going to wear the other team down, or just a solid, steady, stay-at-home defenseman that can contribute to and fit in with an offensive-minded guy. So there's no perfect mold to build a great team. You just need a bunch of good players, and that's what I'm looking for. I guess that's as good an answer as I can give you.
And then I understand if you don't want to name names, but how many of those players do you think you've found so far? Like, how many guys can you confidently point to on the current team and say, yep, those guys are part of this core, we can build around them?
It's like a great question, and I think it would be it's one I really prefer not to answer because no matter what number I give you, everybody's gonna, what about this guy? What about this guy? Or, so I'll just avoid that one. But I appreciate the question.
And then lastly, going back to the playoffs, and you might not want to answer this one either, but I would assume when you got here 4 or 5 years ago, you assessed the roster and didn't see a team quite ready to compete for the playoffs. When you assess the team you've assembled now, do you think that this team is earnestly ready to compete for and potentially make the playoffs this season, whether or not it's the goal?
Well, I guess our goal, we'd love to make the playoffs. I'm not sure, honestly. I want to see us play. Like, I want to see us start the season. I want to see how we look. Again, I think we're a deeper team. Are we better? I hope so. But to sit here for me to say, hey, we're definitely going to make the playoffs or whatnot, I'm not sure. I look at our division, and I'm not sure what to expect from some teams that are continue to get better, and teams that lost players, whether it was due to cap or retirement or whatever. What are they going to be like? There's a lot of uncertainty. So we'll get into the season and see how we match up, see how we do through the first quarter of the season, and then kind of have a better idea of where we're at. I'd like to think we're a better team. I think we're a more competitive team. We'll see if that puts us in a position to compete for a playoff spot.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Sam?
Steve, I'm curious how you perceive the relationship between some of those new acquisitions you brought in this summer and then some of your top prospects who are sort of closest to being ready for NHL minutes. Do you worry about some of those younger players being almost crowded out? Do you feel like there can be a benefit to increased competition to crack the lineup for them? Or does it almost kind of exist totally in their own two silos there?
My experience, like, everybody wants to play. I tell you, every young player that comes into training camp, whether they're on an invite or a first round pick, has something in the back of their mind that says, I'm going to show these guys I've got something, and just maybe if all goes well, I want to make that team. And every player does. It's the natural competitiveness and confidence that I think good athletes have. So for our younger players, again, I just say, like, look, if you're ready to play and you're ready to play a significant role, we'll figure it out. And nobody's crowded out. But, again, anytime we've gone into a season, anytime I've gone into a season, leaving a spot open, hoping a player's ready to take it over, it's a dangerous spot to be in. One, you're not as deep. And you're always going to have injuries somewhere along the way. So you need the depth, and signing players to give you more depth is a good thing. But ultimately, any young player, and I'll use Lucas Raymond as an example. Again, 2 years ago, we expected Lucas to start in the minors. We had players signed, and he was, I don't know that off the top of my head, I can't remember the exact roster, but we didn't anticipate him making it. And he was really good, and we kept him. So we'll figure it out. If we have a player that is too good for the minors, we'll figure it out. So, and that'd be my message to our young players. But we're not just throwing them into the NHL. One, it's not good for them, and two, it's not helping our team win. And we're talking about playoffs and things like that. Well, you want to put your best team on the ice. You want to try and win every game. And if you're putting players out there that aren't ready, it's not going to work out well for a whole host of reasons.
Thank you.
George?
Hi, Steve. I was wondering if we could briefly speak about Sebastian Cosa. I know that his prospect tournament games haven't been the best, but he's an established pro at the ECHL level. He's won 26 games and 5 playoff games. And I was wondering what you think about him making the jump to the AHL this year and what he needs to work on.
Well, going back to last year, Sebastian did have a real good year on a very good team in Toledo. Our hope is he can make a step and have the same type of improvement or same type of performance at the AHL level this season. So he had a tough weekend up in Traverse City. That's okay. It's early. but again, our hope is that he can have an impact at the American League level this year.
And I was wondering if you could speak about the Grand Rapids Griffins coaches and Dan Watson and their ability to gel with each other. You know, the prospect tournament is such a short, just a weekend of competition, but the way the training camp is going to allow them to continue their growth.
Yeah, well, they're getting to know all the players. They got to know some of our prospects first time for that entire staff to probably see some of these kids. And again, they get one practice and we put them out there in 3 quick games. Where, you know, the coaches, it gives them an opportunity to see some of those kids that will play in Grand Rapids with our new staff together. They get a chance to work a little bit with each other and get into a rhythm together, and led by at Dan's direction, his staff kind of get a feel for how he likes to run things, his practices, his meetings, preparation and whatnot. So I think Traverse City was good for that, and the preseason will be as well. But mostly at this point with a new staff, players, the whole organization, we got a new training staff there as well. Like there's a lot of new faces. Take time for them to gel as a staff and get to know their players and work it out. But we're excited with the changes and optimistic that will be a more competitive team in Grand Rapids.
Thank you.
Carly?
Hey, Steve, somewhat piggybacking off of that last question, with a significant amount of guys on the team being new this year, how much does that help having the camp up in Traverse City, being able to bond the team together?
Yeah, you know, I think it's good. I really believe it's good, actually. You know, and again, I watched it last year, and our leadership group or the veterans on our team are really good about they do a lot of things together, whether it's going for dinner or playing golf or whatever. They do a lot together. And I think our younger players kind of sit back and watch the best they can. And is our young guys have fit in very well, and it's a welcoming group. And I think that this week up in Traverse City gives the guys some time to get to know one another at the rink and also away from the rink. And that's one of the benefits of packing up and going somewhere for training camp is you know, they get to spend a lot of time together, and I think that's important, really, with for any team, but in particular one that's made a lot of changes.
And for the fans in Northern Michigan, being able to come see some of the guys out on the ice, how cool is it to be able to bring the hockey up north?
Well, I think again, I did it as a player, and being a part of it in management now. You know, the practices, the scrimmages, having people in the building. We're used to practicing with nobody there, and you kind of and probably throughout the course of the year, that's a good thing. You just focus on practice and not the noise and excitement of a fan base. But in training camp, I think it's a great thing. It makes it real exciting. Players really enjoy it. I think they enjoy definitely the rookie tournament when all those games are sold out. But I think the players really enjoy these practices and scrimmages and whatnot that they have. Having fans in the building, it's a little bit more motivation to impress, I guess. Not only the coaches, but you got people watching. You want to succeed in the drills and succeed in the scrimmages.
Thank you.
Bob?
Steve, you touched on him briefly, Alex Lyon, a guy that's, you know, veteran pro, probably had his best season in terms of NHL hockey last year. How important now is to have that third guy in your goalie rotation that is capable of playing in the NHL? You really didn't have that in Grand Rapids last year, and you look around the league, and including yourself, a lot of teams used 3 or more goalies last year.
Yeah, Bob, I don't know the answer or the reason, I say, but it sure seems like there's a lot more injuries, and in particular with goaltenders throughout the league. You know, Vegas win the cup? Did they use 4 or 5 goaltenders throughout the course of the year? And it's all around the league. You need depth at the position. Everybody's looking for another guy. You need somebody to come up and win games. And you know, again, going back, you know, the difference between making the playoffs and not making the playoffs for a lot of teams, it's so tight down the stretch. having that a third goaltender or a goaltender in the event of injury coming in and giving you a chance to win some games can be it's crucial, and we're all looking for depth at that position. And again, I don't know why, but the goaltenders seem to be getting hurt more, and they're in better condition. They work harder than ever, and it probably goes for all players. We're seeing more injuries than we ever have. So we need, you need depth, and Alex definitely provides that, based on certainly what he did last year and what he's done to this point in his career.
You're going to have an awful lot of your own draft picks, young prospects developing in Grand Rapids this year, certainly. How do you balance that, wanting those guys to develop with, I'm sure you also want Grand Rapids to have a better season and have a shot to make the playoffs too?
Yeah. We want our young players to play, but even at the American League level, like if they can't keep up, if they can't help you win, they're probably not ready to play at that level. So you've got to find somewhere else for them to play. So as much as we kind of will say, hey, just play the young guys, they got to be able to contribute a little bit. Or you find in that, that's why it's important to have, an affiliate in the East Coast League, or you send them back to junior, or you send them back to Europe. But ideally, you have your young players playing a significant role in the minors and in improving as players. We're optimistic most of them will do that.
Steve, I think you're on mute at this point.
Not sure what happened there.
There you
Can
go.
you hear me now? But
Gotcha.
winning is an important part of development. Being in a good program, playing meaningful games, and being well coached, playing with other good players, and good teams have good players. So that's an important part of the development. And we want to play our young guys. And it's kind of always been a tug of war at the American League level, is playing, kind of writing it out with a young kid who maybe isn't quite, ready to help you win, but you want him to play, versus, hey, we also are trying to win games. It is a bit of a tug of war, a juggling act a little bit at that level.
Bob, you're also on mute.
Got to talk to our production team here. That's what training camps for, Art, to work out all the kinks.
You locked up Dylan long term. You've got term with Andrew Kopp, and in the last two drafts, you've picked up Casper and Danielson in the first round. Are you feeling pretty good about your depth at center now going forward?
Yeah, I think so. Like the one thing about all those guys potentially can move to the wing if need be. We've got with JT and Andrew now, Michael Rasmussen, Joe Valeno. We've got some options. JT being a right shot was important. And now it allows us time to just let those younger guys develop at their own rate and not throw them into the NHL. And it gives us some flexibility. Hey, if any of these young guys is ready to go, all those that current sentiment have been pretty good on the wing too. So it gives us a lot of flexibility.
Thank you.
Last question, Art Regner.
Hi, Steve. We lost the internet connection up here for a while, so if you've answered these questions, I apologize, because I didn't hear some of your press conference. But what I'm really curious about was, especially in the first game of the Prospects tournament, Elmer's potential, his hand-eye coordination, his size alone. It seemed to me that he was really trying to make a statement that, I want to be a Red Wing. I know they all do. I mean, did you see that? Do you think that, he is at a point now, and did you like what you saw from him at this prospects tournament, because I don't know if he took the demotion last year that well or not, but he definitely doesn't. Nothing against GR. He definitely doesn't seem like he wants to be there.
Yeah, well, he had a great weekend, Art. The reason we brought him up there, because he was hurt, he missed a lot at the end of the season, and we just wanted to get him, get him in some competition, getting banged around, game like things to prepare him for training camp. We want to, and it turned out to be a great thing. He was up there. He could have, if he wanted to, kind of floated through it a little bit. Played really hard. He played really well. We're really pleased with his performance and how hard he competed up there. And I think that bodes well for him to here in the preseason, because he is one of those players that is competing to play for the Red Wings this year, and he's going to have to really earn it. But it was a really positive weekend for him, and we were really happy with his attitude, his performance.
Another player that stood out for me was Cross Hannes. And what I really liked is after the Red Wings lost the 10-7 game, he was the one who spoke to the media. It was pretty impressive. I mean, he seems to have, and I asked Dan Watson this question, he seems to have a little bit of a leadership vibe going about him. I mean, which is, I guess, would be important because we talk about them as players so much and what they do on the ice, but maybe it's how they conduct themselves off the ice. And Cross seems to be able to get it. Is that a fair assessment?
He has great attitude. He had a good year last year. He had two tough injuries. He worked very hard in the off season. When we got prior to going up to Traverse City, and we do this at development camp and we do it at the prospects term before. We asked the guys that have been here for a couple of years, been here, kind of know what it's all about, to not specifically Cross, but the whole group of them. Guys, we want you guys to take on a bit of a leadership role. Some of these the 18-year-olds, they haven't been to these camps before, and it can be overwhelming a little bit. So I'm happy to hear that. It wasn't necessarily by design, but I'm not surprised. We think very highly of Cross as a young man. And he's a good prospect. His season was cut short by injury last year, but we're optimistic. And he did play well. He said a couple of the goals that he scored, he can put under the bar off the half wall on the power play, and he did that several times last year in GR. So, he's played 1 year of pro hockey. He's a young guy, and he's working really hard at it. He's very competitive, and he's a real good person. So we just hope he continues to improve.
We're kind of fixated on Simon Edvinsson, rightly so. But Tomisto, Wallander, Albert Johansson. I mean, you have a real nice little core here of young up and coming defensemen. Can you assess your blue line prospects wise right now? I would imagine you have to be somewhat pleased with what you're seeing.
Yeah, just over the weekend, I was like. Antti Tomisto is kind of an unheralded name. He was in college for a bit, went back and played in Finland last year. I like, he's a big guy. He passes the puck pretty well. He thinks it pretty well. It looks like a pace of play is picking up. So again, we think he has a chance. William Wallander is a good skater. He has good puck skills. I know he's got a chance. You mentioned Albert. He had a real good year for us in GR last year, finished the season injured, 100% healthy, ready to go now. We're optimistic about him. So things are coming. And obviously you mentioned Simon, who's the higher profile of all these kids. As long as they keep improving, hopefully they all make it. That would be wonderful. But, they just keep improving and they give us hope, and they're pretty good prospects at this point.
Steve, I know you have to go, but I have to really ask you this. I know that, you're not setting any kind of timeline, and I completely understand it, and I certainly respect it. But would you be a little bit disappointed if some of these kids aren't knocking on the door at this camp?
I'm hoping they make, give us some reason to really think hard. And, but again, my expectations, I think you'll see a couple of the kids push. I'm not necessarily going to be specific, but I'm expecting some of them push, and we'll see. We mentioned a few of these guys. They finished last season injured. So, where they were in March or April, we'll see how much has changed there at the start of the year. So I'm hoping some of the young guys really, really push the veterans and are close. And will I be disappointed? Not necessarily, as long as I see more improvement from this time, better prospects than I did at this time last year.
Great. Thank you, Steve. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, Mark.
All right, those are all the questions we had today. Thanks everyone for joining us. And Steve, thanks for the time.
My pleasure. Thank you all. Appreciate all your questions, and we'll see you all soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
You.
Thank you.